We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
Famous Hollywood director, Steven Spielberg, goes on the offensive by releasing a sequel to his infamous sci-fi classic, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Coming this Christmas in 1978, the most talked-about motion picture event since the Star Wars Holiday Special. Spielberg calls the film, Little Boy Lost. It is the true story of a 6-year-old boy who saw and was abducted in his room one night by extraterrestrials. Now believed to have been the Pleiades, who Betty and Barney Hill saw in 1961 while driving in Vancouver, British Columbia. If you ever had any doubts about alien abduction, you won't anymore after watching this motion picture. Critics are saying this is the most intense film ever made by Spielberg since his horror classic, Jaws, in 1975. The film was based on Jay Anson's book under the same title and promises to keep the overall plot based on his teleplay. Anson is most remembered for his work in the Amityville Horror, a book that is supposedly in the works to be released in 1979 by American International Pictures. "Don't be afraid, they won't hurt you" is the most famous quote of this film, and you won't be sleeping anytime soon after you leave the movie theater. This film is rated PG, parental guidance suggested. Released by Columbia Pictures Industries.
The time has come, the war said. That's from Alice in Wonderland. What we are seeing today in America is the destruction of the human dream of individuality and imagination. Because now our culture is saying that one race is all that should matter and count for, and that's the blacks. And any other race, specifically my race, whites, now they're saying your end is at hand as far as your personal rights to speak. Your rights to believe what you want to believe are over. And people are going to see this in the future, if there is a future for America, and say, these were the days when humanity abandoned its own humanity, because they're saying that certain groups now should count and nobody else's. And the government is now sanctioning that philosophy, that your rights are now entirely the choice of one race to decide if it's permitted or not. And I see the governor of our state of Georgia now passing a hate crime law. This law in itself is saying that we are now sanctioning thought crime. That means if you think a certain way, whether there's any action behind that thought or not, now they're saying it's a crime for you to think something, to believe something. And that is in total contradiction to our Constitution. The Constitution guarantees us the rights of every American citizen to free speech, to free expression, to freedom of religion. And now you see that certain beliefs, like Muslims, have tantamount priority over Christianity, which they're now attacking. And now they're attacking whites specifically because of history, not because of what is still happening in this country compared to 160 years ago during the time of the Civil War. And folks, I'm going to say this, and I want you to listen closely. This whole thing that the blacks are pushing is going to cause another civil war. It's going to make another civil war happen. And nothing the government itself can do is going to stop it. Because now you're infringing on individual people, and you're infringing on individual beliefs. Your individual thoughts are now under attack by our government. And the blacks have the total sanction of George Soros and other communist, socialist parties within the Democrats themselves. And they're the ones that are ushering in this fatalistic viewpoint that if we can abolish and destroy individual freedom and individual thoughts and make it crimes for you to think certain ways or to believe certain ways, this is somehow going to create a utopia that Obama kept promising people. And this is the scariest part of all, that communism up until this point has always been something America fought against. And now it is right here in our faces. Through Schumer, through Schiff, through Warren, through Pelosi, through Nader, through Obama, through Biden, through Hillary Clinton. And now you see that the utopia Obama kept saying, I'm going to take from those who I don't think deserve certain things, I'm going to give it to the people I think should have it. Now they're saying the next stage of it, which is we're going to give blacks the full power to decide and choose what somebody should believe and what somebody should not believe. And that, in my opinion, that is the elimination of free thought in this country. And our government is sanctioning it. Our government is saying now, we must abandon our traditions and our philosophies and our morals and our values in this country, because it's time to give those values and those morals to some other race, some other faction who they believe should have those rights above and beyond anybody else. And I say this, as taxpayers, if they're going to infringe on our rights of free speech and our personal thoughts, then it's time to be in a position to revolt against being taxpayers and say, no more are we going to pay taxes. If the government is telling us, we control your money and we're now going to control you. We're going to control your life, we're going to control your thoughts, we're going to control your actions. The law always was supposed to help to help control lawlessness, and that is actions. Those are people who commit acts. The blacks are saying this is no longer about actions. This is now about us mandating and dictating to you like Barack Obama did. They're now saying we're going to tell you what you can think and what you can't think. That's laughable, but it's reality, because now you have Governor Kemp and you have several other states telling everybody we're going to put up statues for Martin Luther King and every other black, who are the same people out looting and burning buildings in these protests. But we're going to condemn and we're going to put down and attack Christians who do nothing wrong except worship the way they want to. And we're going to attack people because they have a flag on their car or they have a flag at their home in their own residence. They're saying, you're not allowed to think that way, and we're going to come into your house and we're going to take it away from you. And now we're going to also go the next step. We're going to have you arrested for thinking the way that you do. That your values and your beliefs and your respect for your ancestors who were Civil War veterans and Confederate soldiers, all of that is now crimes under this hate crime bill. That's what Governor Kemp just said today. Your freedoms and your individual ideas, if they are in tantamount rejection by blacks, is now a crime under the hate crime laws of this country. And that infringes, ladies and gentlemen, on your individual freedoms as an American citizen. But also, these are now attacks against the very simple, basic human rights that we all are entitled to have, which is that we believe the way we want to. Now the hate crimes are going to be used as a as a catalyst to bring about other kinds of hate crime laws that Obama kept pushing during his 8 years as dictator of this country, which is, you think a certain way, you believe a certain way, it's now a crime to think that way or to believe that way. And that's what the blacks wanted ever since this whole thing began. When the protests started, they said, this is the chance, the opportunity of a lifetime to bring about the kind of revolutionary change Barack Obama started, to initiate a philosophy of total and complete hatred against a particular race in this country. And now it's being directed against whites and those who believe that the South and its philosophies and its decency should be abolished. It should be destroyed, because now you have so many people here from the North who kept saying during the time when they started congregating to this part of the United States, we're going to re-educate the South. We're going to eliminate the South. That's what they kept saying when they kept saying, we're going to come down from New York, we're going to come down from Virginia, we're going to come down here from Maryland, we're going to come down here from Massachusetts and Connecticut and all the rest of these states. They said, we're coming to the South because we're going to destroy the South. We're going to destroy what it is. Even though they did defeat the South in 1865 when the North defeated the South, they weren't satisfied that they actually won the Civil War. Now they're using the philosophies of black slavery and black supremacy to say they're entitled to believe that way now. They're entitled to destroy who you are as an American citizen, because now it's about giving them retribution. Now it's all about giving the blacks their full comeuppance, giving them what they're entitled to get, which is the total elimination, folks, of who we are as American citizens, the destruction of what and who we were, of what we believed in, of who we were. And you had a guy like this idiot ass from the NASCAR, that Bubba, what's his name? And him saying these kinds of insightful statements about the noose being a hate crime because somebody puts a noose in his garage. And then after the fact, the FBI find out, well, that's been there for more than a year and a half, Mr. Bubba. You can't say that this was a hate crime. But see, he's already said it, so now the blacks just take off with it and say, well, who knows, it could have been there and maybe somebody did do something. See, now they're elaborating. Now they're reaching. They're using any opportunity they have to bring up things, whether it be a lie, whether it be untrue. And now they're using it to justify what they are doing to us as American citizens, and that is to destroy who we are, especially the South. And I say this Civil War, folks, is not going to end with words. It didn't end during the Civil War. When it began, it was about people using words against each other. That's what started the Civil War. It was not slavery. The North was condemning the South because of their philosophies and their way of life. The North folks are the ones who brought the slaves to America. They were the ones bringing them into the ports, okay? This is not from the South brought them in from Africa. No, it came from the North first, and then it spread throughout the entire continental United States through those ports in the northern states. So don't get those facts just understood, okay? It's the North who's instigating this. And who's instigating it? It's Obama first, who in turn uses George Soros, who in turn is using Henry Kissinger and all the other black leaders of this country to say, it's now time to eradicate a philosophy in this country. It's time to tear down and destroy what people believe in. And as long as it's in an individual's heart, folks, you're not going to eradicate it. I promise you, you're not going to eradicate it. People believe a certain way because it's their constitutional right to believe that. Whether or not it creates actions whereby you have certain people who use the rebel flag in a negative viewpoint to say, well, we're going to attack a black because he's jogging down the street and he's loitering inside unconstructed buildings or homes. That's the only opportunity a black needs to say, look at that, they're attacking a black man because he's loitering and he's in violation the trespassing law because he's in there looking at stuff. Well, if a white man had gone in there, they'd arrested him too, but the blacks wouldn't have cared about that because he is white, so therefore it doesn't matter. These are the philosophies, folks, that now they're using. And I say the overall bigger picture of this, folks, and the reality of the end game is the communists are using this opportunity to destroy our country, to destroy who we are. And if you do not fight for your rights, then it's your fault and nobody else is to blame for it. Someday you're going to wake up and you're going to see this country is now a fascist, socialist nation, totally run by Barack Obama and by his socialist democratic communists. When that happens, you're going to look at this thing and you're going to say, boy, did we screw up not looking at it from the perspective that our freedoms and our rights were being snatched away when we allowed the blacks to do this idiocy, this total complete joke of destroying individual freedoms in this country. And then it's too late because there's no way you can ever get it back. When you let them take it all away, folks, it's over. And I guarantee you, nobody's going to fight who are millennials. Millennials have no concept of fighting because all their lives they've lived it high and dry on pot, marijuana, drugs, alcohol, everything and anything. So when they see that their ancestors, grandpa, grandma, were fighting during the Second World War, they have no clue of what that's about because they don't know what freedom is. They don't care what freedom is. They don't want freedom. And that is where we are now. Nobody cares about what they have, so they say, let the government take it all away and let them control us. And when they control us, folks, everything about who we are is flushed. Everything about who you are is flushed. And that includes your family, your daughter, your son, your wife. The government is going to give a black full power to come into your house and do whatever they want to you, to your family, and take your assets, take your car, take your food, take everything you own. And the blacks are going to say, hey, you know what, baby, it's our rights because now the government's giving it to us. Now we can do whatever we want to. That's what's going on right now in California. The idiot that makes up their state's government are saying, we give certain areas of California sanctuaries. And that means the cops can't go in, the police, the military can't go in, the fire department can't go in. They can do anything they want to in those sanctuary cities because they are allowed to do whatever they want. And there is no law or order that can step in and take in the responsibility of control and command of those regions. Because now the government of this country is saying, well, we got to use that philosophy on a national scale and say we're going to make all of the states a sanctuary. So that then the police have no power to do anything anywhere. So the cops are going to be disbanded, they're going to be defunded because that's what the communist socialists want. Then when it's over with and you've got total disarray and total anarchy, then the socialist communist army will show up, and those are the people I think representing the Muslims. And they're going to say, we're going to hack off your head because you are a Christian and you believe a certain way that we don't believe in. And they're going to take over everything else. Then all the women of this country are going to be made to wear veils over their faces. You're going to become property to a Muslim who says, I can marry you for 7 hours and do whatever I want to you, and you have no legal rights to resist or to do anything else. Yes, folks, that is what Sharia law is. Sharia law gives a Muslim man the right to do anything he wants with anybody. And that's it. That's what they do to you. You have no rights. You have nothing. So folks, this is what you brought upon yourselves. This is what the Northerners wanted to destroy the Southern way of life. The Northerns want the total abolishment of our individual rights as American citizens to believe and to live the way we want to. We are going to fight And that includes, as long as we have the Second Amendment and we can hold a gun in our hands and defend our freedoms and our rights, we will use them. And any northerner who says he's going to come into our house and take over what we have, folks, there's going to be a lot of shooting in this country. Because when northerners think they can destroy who we are as a nation, as a culture, being the South, you're biting the hand of a lion. And sooner or later, that lion is going to bite off your head. And that's what they're forcing on this country. They're forcing this country to believe that your way of life is now under the full and complete control of a hate crime law that says, if you believe this way, it's wrong, and we're going to prosecute you for that belief, that idea. If you're a Christian, you're now going to be arrested for believing in Jesus Christ as the Son of God. If you don't believe Islam, you're going to be arrested because they are now the global world religion. And who is their Mahdi? It's Barack Obama himself. He is their Mahdi. He is their savior. He is the 12th Imam Mahdi. And that is going to be, in a nutshell, what America is now going to become. It's going to be called the North American Union. The United States, as a sovereign nation, now is dissolved. It is now gone. Thanks to you, socialist communists.
عزيزي عمران، نحن نحبك. العالم كله يهتم بك وبعائلتك. إذا سمعت هذه الرسالة، يرجى مشاركة صورة لنفسك وهي ترتدي قميص القط. نود أن نرى كم أنت أفضل اليوم في حلب. عزيزي أبو علي، أنت رجل مبارك له العديد من الأطفال المحبين. رؤى، تقي، عبد الله، وعمران صغير. يرجى معانقتهم كل يوم. أخبرهم أننا نتمنى أن نتمكن من احتضان كل منهم في الصداقة والحب.
His name is Omran Daknesh, just 5 years old, and his feet barely hung over the edge of a seat in an ambulance. Dazed, he didn't cry as he wiped away blood and the dust of a building that collapsed around him in an airstrike. His silence somehow reminded the world today of its silence in the face of the atrocities in Aleppo. Omran was pulled out alive Wednesday. 5 other children died when the building they were in was hit during the relentless Syrian-Russian offensive on rebel-held areas in Aleppo. The image of Omran's face spread like wildfire on the internet. One tweet called him the real representative of the Syrian people.
Stop killing Syrian innocent people, civilian. Our children need to live in peace.
The doctor who treated Omran said today there were many more severe cases no one is paying attention to.
We need to protect our hospital, our doctors, our medical workers from airstrike.
Omran is recovering. His family now wants to escape. The same choice another boy's family made a year ago, Aylan Kurdi, whose body washed up on a beach. He too was a symbol of Syria's youngest victims. Now there's a new one. Tomorrow there may be another. Richard Engel, NBC News.
They've reported from around the world, challenged the powerful, and they bring all of this to every story that breaks.
We've got breaking news, and it's good news.
And touches your heart.
How do you even say thank you? Thank you is not big enough.
I made this.
The images shocked the world. Relentless bombings. Stunned survivors.
Hi, I'm William Bilbox. Hi, I'm very good.